So we all know the PlayStation 5 Pro is a real thing, and I've done some videos on some various leaks and things like that that have come out on the hardware, and it seems like it's going to be a very powerful machine, and I think it's going to have a lot of things going for it. While originally it wasn't something that I was interested in, I feel like at this particular point it's something that I'm leaning more and more into getting, not because I'm some big like PlayStation user or anything like that, but I just think it'll be fun to kind of be able to mess around with things and sort of have that little boost in technology. And since I run a channel about gaming, I thought it'd be an interesting thing to have. So, they'll probably give you, $200-$300 off of it if you trade in your current PS5 or whatever. So that pretty much is going to be the way that I'm going to look at it and kind of go about things. And it should be a pretty interesting set of circumstances around it, because you have stuff like Call of Duty coming out, you have the Doom coming out, you probably have some Xbox quote-unquote exclusives that are going to come to it, and I'm very interested to see how they run on this PlayStation 5 Pro as opposed to the Xbox Series X, because we know Microsoft isn't going to be doing any type of mid-gen refresh this time around. They launched this generation with a mid-gen refresh, really. That's what the Series X supposedly was, but unfortunately they didn't really take much advantage of it due to the fact that the PlayStation 5 just jumped out to such an insurmountable lead. Really we're kind of left with the situation where what else can we do? Honestly, we're just kind of screwed. Have to sit and wait and see what happens. But anyway, there was this rumor that came out, and I know a lot of people are probably waiting for, Sony to do like a big first-party showcase, where it's like some of the big first-party games, from the creators of God of War, and where's Naughty Dog's game and this kind of stuff. I think that when it comes down to it, we're in a weird situation because Sony really kind of bet heavily on like the games as a service stuff, and they've had some mild success. Obviously, who would have thought that Helldivers 2 would have been that? They kind of shot themselves in the foot with the PSN account linkage stuff and whatever, and who knows if that'll ever go back to normal. But at the end of the day, it's still an interesting kind of aspect. And where I'm sitting and kind of looking at this, and I'm kind of questioning what's going on with Sony. There's this rumor that kind of came out that they are going to do a showcase in September, and this is when they're going to announce the PS5 Pro, and allegedly one of the games that they're going to be showing off is Ghost of Tsushima 2, which, as you guys know, the first game was a really well received game. Obviously, what's funny is, to me, when I play that game, like, you wouldn't believe that game's only an 83 rating. I know that, like, its terms of Metacritic and stuff like that, you look at that and you go, well, 83 is pretty good, but that game plays like a 90 plus game all the time. I think if you go back and look into some of the ratings and things, that game got slammed a little bit for having people were saying, oh, they're appropriating this or this or this. But the interesting thing is they actually were helping that area. Fans really funded it, and I guess like the area that the game is based on, like, built some kind of monument or something in thanks to them, because they get more tourists and things like that. So it all ended up working out for the better, and people end up they get offended by the stupidest things these days. But the game is great, and realistically a lot of people had been asking for like a Japanese setting for Assassin's Creed for a long time, and who would have guessed that Ghost of Tsushima would have been that, like, to the 10th degree, and way better than anything Assassin's Creed had done pretty much ever. If you want to think about it, because if you look at what Ubisoft does now, they pretty much ruin anything that they touch, and they just fill it with monetization. How do you turn Assassin's Creed into a live service game? Like, that's not what that game is about. So to me, it's strange and very interesting and telling that that's sort of where we're at with this whole situation. But anyway, that's rumored to be one of the games that they're going to showcase at this event, where they're going to show off the PS5 Pro. So to me, that is a phenomenal thing, and realistically, I think it's going to come down to whether or not Sony has the something that can really like surprise people. I think that's the big thing, and it's not just that. I mean, there's rumored to be other games there as well, and I think that when it comes down to it, Microsoft has won't really have an answer to this stuff. I mean, yes, Microsoft had a very good showcase, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything to kind of separate themselves for why you should buy an Xbox to play this stuff. And then when you see Microsoft, they're like, oh, okay, well, you can play our games on a Fire Stick or whatever. No console needed. They run this into the ground that you don't need a console to play their stuff, right? And that's fine, because I mean, I get that Sony does like some cloud stuff and they put some of their stuff on PC later, but it's like the console is their focal point, and I think that really helps them. It gets people excited, because if you don't get your console gamers excited, then your stuff isn't going to sell. It's not going to do well. So I think that's the point where we're kind of at with a lot of this. And at the end of the day, Microsoft and Sony both are kind of in this situation where we're going to have to wait and see sort of what happens in the future with this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that Sony's in a very good, advantageous kind of spot with people wanting to play games in a better state. And you think every 4 years, I think that's a really good time to maybe come out with and give people an option for something to run games better. And so I'm on board with that. And like I said, when it comes down to it, having Microsoft be able to do these things, I think that's going to be sort of the future, and I think the future might be very well something along the lines of I think generations aren't necessarily a thing, right? And then you look at it and you see that most games are still coming out on last gen hardware. There's a rumor that even that EA Star Wars game is going to come out on last gen consoles as well, because you have millions of people. You still have half the people on PlayStation 4, right? Just as many on PS4 as on PS5, and I'm sure that there's still plenty on Xbox One. But having stuff like Ghost of Tsushima to show off, rumors of possibly getting a teaser for the new Naughty Dog game, that I think could really get people excited. Because if you look at things on the PlayStation side, there's not as much excitement as you would think. Yes, the PlayStation 5 is still selling well. Maybe it's leveled off a little bit overall to where the PS4 was, but there's still, considering the lack of games, if you want to think about it, like in terms of big first party titles, they had Spider-Man 2 last year, and that was basically it for last year. And then this year they've had pretty much nothing. I mean, they're going to have some smaller stuff, I guess, like Astro Bot's going to come out, and then the Concorde looks like it's going to be dead on arrival. And I can't say that I that I blame people for not jumping on that. Like, at some point, these companies got to understand that your gamers aren't the majority of gamers aren't interested in playing as these grotesque characters with like pronouns on the thing or whatever, where you should be able to just know if someone's a guy or a girl. I mean, it's call me crazy, but I think that's what really is off-putting to a lot of people. And when you have the majority of gamers, there's going to be some that just don't care about that, but I think the majority will, and they get tired of being spoon-fed this crap. And that goes for both sides, right? There's that on both sides of the kind of coin there. But again, I think Sony could do themselves a big favor when they show off this console, and that's going to be a very exciting prospect, because people like the new hardware. And I feel like the industry suffers a little bit when we don't have that new hardware. So I think that stuff like the Switch 2 and the PS5 Pro can really kind of go a long way in delivering what we want as fans. So I do really see that as something special that can be done, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can show off. I hope to see that anyway. It looks like it's going to be, from the sounds of it, a very powerful machine. They're going to be able to really utilize the 4K stuff with the better frame rates, and the be able to use the ray tracing and things like that, because they're going to be able to use their own like proprietary stuff in that. So I think that's going to be cool, and I'm looking forward to just kind of seeing some of the differences. Hopefully it's going to look, anything that's going to make the games look better, I think is cool. I think we're past that point though where we're going to get that huge leap where everybody can tell, but I still think this is really good news for Sony and pretty much bad news for Xbox. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see Ghost of Tsushima 2 running on a PS5 Pro? Let me know. Rack 'em up. Crab Gamer out.